Good evening, everyone. It's 7 p.m. on Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. This is a meeting of the Prudential Committee. Let me take roll call. Mark Lynch here.
Rand Parks here.
Charlie Eager here.
Seth Burdick, present.
Rick Ferrone here.
Let's pledge allegiance to the flag. If Lisa, if you can do the honors with the flag emblem.
There you go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on the agenda is public comment.
Yes, I have it. If I can be recognized.
Carol, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Carol Zace, 86 Putnam Avenue. I just wanted to report that I was able to, I had spoken with Mark earlier this week, and I was able to meet with a company called Power Sound of New England. They are the company that did the audio visual sound system over at the Federated Church. And it was a really good meeting. The gentleman who came and who was part of the an installation team was very informative and very happy to will be giving us an estimate. And I just wanted to know how to go about getting it possibly in the warrant, to at least, if the Prudential would be doing that, or if this had to be done a different way.
Let me give a little background here. Carol called me as an interested citizen a few days ago and told me that she had, in her capacity as, I believe, president of the Civic Association, correct?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. I'm not sure if I gave you a promotion or a demotion, but either way, that she had been receiving some complaints that the sound quality recording, well, the sound in Freedom Hall was still not good, and people participating by Zoom were sometimes unable to hear the meeting. And she was doing some investigating with this company, and wanted to see what they had to say. My response was always happy to get assistance from an interested citizen. The number that was thrown out by Carol was very, very high to me, and I told her that. But I told her if she wanted to meet with these folks, that's terrific. I don't know. I note, for example, that our last meeting minutes, which were done by recording, came back perfectly without any unintelligible notations. In the past, there has been, you know, the woman who does Gina Gonzalez, who does the meeting minutes, hasn't been able to catch quite everything. So clearly, anyone speaking needs to be right in front of the owl, which is the term for the device we have currently, or you can't hear them. So we need to be fastidious about that. Having said all that, what did you find out from the people at Power Sound in terms of how much they thought a sound system for Freedom Hall might cost?
Well, they looked, closely at the sound system that we have and the projector that we have, and they're, both fairly old, and there's a lot of technology development that has happened in the period of time that that has been installed till now. So they, the items, the recommendations that they gave us to do what I was asking, which was for the commissioners' meetings to be able to be easily recorded, easily heard and attended in a hybrid meeting like tonight's Zoom, but where you would be in person and other people might be calling in, which is very difficult to do right now. As well as using it for community meetings that the Civic Association needs to do, like candidates and budget, a budget and candidates night, where we have presentations by all the cost centers, and try again to do that both hybrid and in person, because, you know, our community got comfortable or used to, or whatever the word is, attending meetings by choice, either in person or virtually. So I was just looking into what could be done. And so it would require some installations of, you know, these are very small things, but there was a bunch of different pieces, and I won't do it justice by repeating what he has, but I do believe that price is pretty accurate, Mark. And I forgot this meeting wasn't in person, but I do have an estimate I can provide to you and more information about the company, or I can just email it to you. So I really think would be a great improvement to Freedom Hall. The way that they set these systems up are very simple with a few button pushes. Everything else is installed and is in place. As we know, the Federated Church is just one of many of their customers, and they have excellent references. So that's what I have to report. I just would really, I think I said this back in January, I would really love to see something like this on the warrant as an improvement to Freedom Hall.
What's the net?
Meaning, what's the estimate?
Yes.
Yeah,
It is $25,846.61.
I have a question.
If the district, you know, pays for all of it, you know, there may be opportunities for some requests from the public for making donations, if that's allowed for the fire district. You know, other associations that would want to use the community hall, you know, might want to be able to have this service available to them that they haven't been able to, and maybe we can do a little bit of fundraising, so it's not, or I'll say I could do a little bit of fundraising for you if it's something that moves forward.
My reaction when you threw out a number in our call similar to that, and I told you that I thought that was a very, very high number for what is a sometime problem, a remedy to a sometime problem. I tell you what, again, there's no harm in looking. So if you can send Fran and Seth and Ray and Lisa a copy of that estimate, you know, there's no harm in looking. Obviously, that'll give us more detail about what they're thinking about. That strikes me as a big number, particularly in a year where we're going to be spending some significant amounts of money. But
again, it may be to you, but to the community as a whole, to be able to vote on that, I think is what I'm asking, so that people can make a decision as well in our fire district. So whatever. And in the meantime, you know, if it goes on to the warrant and could be something that we vote on at the annual district meeting, maybe between now and then, some fundraising could happen.
Mark, Ray and
Mark.
Fran and Patty all have their hands raised.
okay, let's
Mark.
start with Ray.
Well, I was going to defer to Fran.
Thank you.
Let's
I
start
think
with
we're going to
Fran.
say the same
I-
thing.
I had one question. Did they say anything about putting any sort of baffling up in Freedom Hall? Because that's the actual sound problem. is just there's no absorption of the sound in the way. And to take care of that sound problem, you need to put some sort of baffles up, or, to correctly install and have the sound in the building. As far as I'm concerned, the problem with hearing the meetings is that we have a great deal of numbers on committees who mumble and who don't speak into the microphone, who are looking left, right, and side, up and down, and that's why you can't hear them. I think $25,000 is a very large sum of money when we have other serious financial things on the plate.
Who else had their hand up?
Ray,
If it's $25,000, we're really going to need two other legally put it on the warrant, I believe. Anything over $10,000 requires three quotes. So I think we would have to get two other quotes in hand before we could put it on the warrant.
Or you could put it on at 10,000 and we'll work on raising the other 15.
Yes, you could do that. Yes,
Um,
feasible.
anyone else?
Patty Daly
Yes.
has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Patty.
Thank you. Patty Daly, 45 Banfield Drive. The other thing you could do is put it on the warrant up to a figure not to exceed 25,000, say, and then direct the district to do the appropriate procurement under Chapter 30B. And I wasn't going to speak to this issue, but since Carol raised it, I don't see this as a sometime problem. I see it as a problem of the citizens of the district being able to fully participate in our local fire district governance. So, what may be like a lost end of a sentence to one person might actually be something that's important to the people who are trying to listen and participate.
Could I
With
just,
that,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Before you move on to the next thing, which was why you had raised your hand, I know. Could I just say that a lot of this stuff has gotten more and more technical, and part of the issue is having people who might have many, many skills, but not the technical capabilities of adding all of these things. If it's just a press of a button, that might be a really good way to go. But the
That's
other
what
thing
it is.
is maybe having the district have someone who's technically correct or capable of being able to work with a sound system that we already have. It's gotten more and more complicated recently.
It's not just
And
the
what-
sound system, Lisa, it is the way he described it, very much like you have preset buttons for if you're going to do a Zoom and a Zoom hybrid meeting, or if you're going to do just a meeting. Those were the two scenarios we gave them. You have these different buttons and it programs everything. The new sound system has a matrix, digital matrix, so it knows what is needed and where it goes. I mean, these are used, this system, this company mostly focuses on churches and houses, religious houses, whatever, where they know there are going to be multiple people, aging populations, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not their first rodeo who needs to have it. Like the thermostat at Freedom Hall has instructions on what to do. The sound system has instructions of what to do. This might have, you need this button. If you're doing a hybrid meeting, you need this button, and I'm simplifying it, but and they do a lot of training, and they have full support system on weekends as well because of their population that they mostly serve. So I think that it's a good system. It's just a matter of, and I hear what everybody's saying. It's a matter of where it fits into the budget and articles and stuff like that. But again, I'm just requesting that you bring it to the ADM to decide and go from there.
Okay, the only other thing I'll add, and you know, until COVID, we never had hybrid or Zoom meetings at all. It seems to work pretty well when we can get the sound system going, but it is that is up to the state. They continue to give kind of extensions of that, and perhaps are aiming towards making this the standard rather than the long-going exception. But I'll just throw that out for whatever it's worth as well. If we can move on to the meeting minutes approval.
May I actually say what I was going to say when I first raised my hand?
Okay, go ahead.
I didn't.
Wait, this is Patty Daly. Can you?
Yes,
give us
sorry,
your
Patty
address?
Daly, 45 Banfield Drive. Thank you. I was just commenting on the previous speaker's comment at that point. And for a mere mortal like me, the Zoom link continues to not work on the agendas that are published on the CFD website nor the Town of Barnstable website. But be that as it may, I'm actually interested in talking about the Katuitt Elementary School study. I know that's on your agenda for later. And I'm mostly concerned
Before
about
we
timing.
move on to another topic,
Yep.
Patty, I think you need to look at your computer. Everyone else was able to get on by clicking from the
Okay.
one that was on the website. So,
Okay.
you know,
Our
I-
website.
That may,
on the
You're not going to
website.
be able to get there from the agenda that's on the Town of Barnstable.
for whatever reason, that didn't work for me, but I will check it out on my end. And I
Okay.
apologize if that's not a concern.
Okay.
So at any rate, okay.
Yep.
The elementary school. My primary concern about this is timing. So the vote to do the study was May 4th, 2024. The contract to do the study was executed on March 11th, 2025. That's 10 and a half months. The deadline to file warrant articles for the annual district meeting is May 28th. I don't know how long the study's going to take, and
April
there
28th.
is I'm sorry, what?
April 28th.
Oh, sorry. April 28th is the deadline to file articles for the warrant for the annual district. Thank you, Carol. I keep doing that. So, the study it should be done before the annual district meeting, but are we going to have like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like between when the study's done and when I anticipate you're going to bring a warrant article to demolish the building again? And the opportunity to respond with another warrant article is also time limited. So I'm here to ask you to consider the very short amount of time for the citizens to hear about, absorb, and think about this study that passed back in May of 2024, and the timing for any kind of determination or vote about the school itself. I don't think putting a demolition article on the AGM in May gives sufficient time for the village residents to have a meaningful discussion about what to do with the school. Thank you.
Mark, may I say
We will.
something?
Go ahead, Fran.
We would have been able to get this all set up and running if we weren't delayed by a 6-week subcommittee meetings and using that RFP to go out that nobody answered because it was too complicated. And, you know, we've been told by these people that they will have it ready for, you know, the annual district meeting, if not before. And this has already been talked to death in the village. I don't think we need to hold back on putting it on the warrant when it's already been talked to death about in the village and everybody at the last meeting, and you know, talked about it and discussed it. I don't think there's any reason to delay putting it on the warrant.
So,
So may
thank
I
you.
may I
Thank you,
respond?
Fran. Hang on.
May I respond to that?
Just let me, if I may, I would very much second Fran's notion that this idea that this was all of some kind of delay by the Prudential Committee, we really bent over backwards to include commentary. We set up that ad hoc committee to get input from Patty is nodding her head here, from members of the community interested in this. And I thought that worked quite well. It was very time consuming. And in the end, we created a request for proposal that was way too detailed. So we had to start from scratch, which we've done, and we have Icon working on the project now. I am sensitive to your concern about timing. That's one of the things we're going to talk about in this meeting. And I'm sensitive to the idea that someone may want to put in some kind of warrant. I'm not sure what it would be, since we've been told over and over again that not one penny of village money will go towards this building. But be that as it may, we're going to talk about that. That's why this is on the meeting agenda. When this study can be done, they are very much aware that timing on this is critical. We want to make sure it's a good study, and we want to make sure it's a timely study. So let's talk about that. We will talk about that when we get to that topic. If you have any other comments, go ahead, Patty.
Just, we appreciated the opportunity to work on the RFP with you. Regardless of the reasons why the study's coming in so late, I still believe there's a timing issue here to give fair opportunity for just, thoughtful discussion. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment before we get to the next agenda item?
I see nothing.
Okay, meeting minutes approval. We had fallen behind a little bit, and we are in the process of catching up. So this meeting, I forwarded the meeting minutes for the September 11th, 2024 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. The next meeting minutes were October 28th, I believe. Can someone check my date there? That's supposed to be a
That's
Monday in
correct.
October.
That's
correct. October 28th, 2024. Can I get a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The last meeting minutes are from our most recent meeting. That's March 24th, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're catching up. We'll have some additional ones that you'll have an opportunity to review in advance of our next meeting. And we'll hopefully get this resolved quite soon. The assistant treasurer position is on here because our current assistant treasurer, Lisa Haven, has announced her intention to move on. Lisa, you indicated about 3 months from the time you first told us this news, but also said you had some flexibility in terms of timing. When are you looking to finish your tenure as assistant treasurer?
I indicated that I'd give the district up to 3 months prior to
Okay.
retiring.
And what's that deadline then from the time of your notice, just so we're all clear?
I believe I informed the treasurer on April 4th, so that could be June 4th. I can be available after you find someone, to help with training. This is kind of there are many components to every monthly activity, so I can be flexible on that count.
Thank you. So we received, let me just scribble some notes. So Ray and Lisa have put together a list of duties for the assistant treasurer. And if I understand this correctly, this was kind of a combination from both Ray and Lisa. Is that Ray? Is that a correct description?
Ray, you're muted. You're muted, Ray.
Thank you. Yes, I sent it to, I had actually a list from my other district. And I sent that to Lisa because there are, as she quickly pointed out to me, a number of functions, particularly with respect to water department and Freedom Hall, that are not present in the West Barnstable district, that are part of the Katuitt district, which requires no small amount of work on behalf of the assistant treasurer. So she reviewed the list and made additions to it. So I think we have a very comprehensive list of the current duties that Lisa carries out. When Lisa started, the job was a 24-hour position. It has grown to 30, partly because of outside influences and partly because of her taking on tasks that needed to be done and were not done in the past. So I think the question before the committee would be, do we want to recruit for someone to fill the job as is currently handled? Or do we want to try to go back to the 24-hour position? My strong recommendation is that we replace it with a 4-day full scope of duties that currently exist.
Okay, so currently it's a 3-day, which qualifies as a full-time position, which qualifies for
4 days.
medical.
My average is about 32 hours a week. It's 4 plus.
Yeah, I understand, but the job description that we hired for was 24 hours a week, which was a full-time position. No.
Was a part-time position, not benefit eligible. We went to
Okay.
3 days and then we went to 4 days. And it was when we went to the 4th day that the position became fringe eligible.
Okay. So Lisa was essentially hired initially as a part-time employee and became a full-time employee.
Correct.
Okay.
We added a lot of duties, including what happened with COVID, and we had to go remote and digitize everything. But also we added, I did a lot of grant writing, and I've brought in for the district quite a lot of revenue. If you go back down to 24 hours, I suspect you would lose the 35 to 40,000 ambulance grant that I bring in every year for reducing ambulance costs. We don't have FEMA and, I mean, COVID right now, but.
Yeah,
and
let
that
me
was one
interrupt you
thing I
to say
did.
that I am inclined to recruit it as a 4-day position. Because the job has expanded, and we need the stuff done that you do.
Yeah.
So I am inclined to agree with Ray on that point. Let me ask you this, Lisa, just so we all understand what your duties are, because they have expanded in good part because issues have arisen that needed to be addressed, and you addressed them, and we thank you for that foresight. There are in your document that you updated on April 3rd, 2025, you talk about your payroll and human resources duties. Do you do these, and they're extensive? Do you perform these duties for the fire department and the water department and the Prudential committee, or?
I perform them for all personnel of the district, including commissioners, committee members, water department, fire department, finance department. When anyone becomes an employee, they have all kinds of paperwork like Homeland Security, Barnstable County Retirement, health, various insurance. All of that has to be onboarded, and then when employees leave, it has to be offboarded, and there are other paperwork. There's other paperwork
Right.
involved.
And you're currently doing that for fire, water, and Prudential.
Yeah, someone in my position has always done that.
Okay. The other, I know that you assist sometimes with regard to Freedom Hall and the kind of administrative duties there regarding deposits and refunds of deposits, but also I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, opening and closing of the building and showing the building to people.
Well,
Fran
has been doing most of the personal contact about that every now and then, especially when Fran's not able to. I will do that. I also meet contractors and people like the fire extinguisher inspectors and the building inspectors. But recently we've moved to, instead of accepting checks by someone at the fire station for deposits and rent, we've turned it into an electronic shopping cart. And so no longer, we're trying to get away from paper checks, from people handling paper checks and cash. So I do set up those shopping carts and record all of what comes in.
Do you think that those duties should be added to the assistant treasurer position formally?
No.
Go ahead, Fran.
I think, no, I think that the assistant treasurer's job is to be the assistant treasurer. And the maintenance of Freedom Hall is the responsibility of the Prudential Committee. And I have met, contractors there and people from the town and people from Mr. Fowler because of our mice problem. So I think, that's a responsibility of the Prudential Committee, not of the assistant treasurer. And it's unfortunate that, I was out for 3 months because of my neck injury and couldn't get to Freedom Hall to do things. But I did, that's, for years, I put out the big, huge metal signs that announced the meetings. And it just came to a point where I could no longer do it. And I had the firemen do it once or twice. And Now, unfortunately, Lisa's been doing it. She shouldn't be doing it. It's the responsibility of the people on the Prudential Committee to put out those signs. And I certainly hope somebody does that for the next meeting. But no, I don't think the assistant treasurer should be responsible for, what's going on at Freedom Hall. We have
Seth, any thoughts?
A couple. So one of my questions, I guess, is, and it may have an obvious answer, but it doesn't, I can't. Why, how come the fire department and the water department don't handle their own personnel requirements, needs
That's a
when
good
it comes to
question.
onboarding, offboarding, all that stuff?
no.
Why?
I would assume that there should just be one person in charge of that, not, the logistics of hiring somebody, and all their paperwork should just be with one human resource person. I don't think you want to split that among three different groups.
And it,
I mean, the only reason I say that is because it is kind of an expansive job description. And I agree with Mark that I think that those ancillary things related to Freedom Hall could be put into that job description, that maybe that there could be two jobs, one full-time job and one part-time job. And I understand why I suppose why you would have one person for the whole district to do it, but we commit a significant amount of resources to the fire department and the water department both, and they hire the people. So why couldn't they do the paperwork? That's just one small thing. I mean, if you're, I don't know. I think that it may be difficult to find somebody right off the bat who has all of these various skills. So I believe that you should split. I mean, if we have to, we should split some of these things up so that we can make it easier for us to find somebody to fill this spot and not have it be, you know, such a jack of all trades job.
That I agree that there needs to be maybe shared job or backup, because there isn't a backup for me to
Right.
take a vacation. On the other hand, some of these enrolling people and dealing with open enrollment for all the various health insurance, there needs to be one point of contact for the Cape Cod Community Healthcare to send news about the changing rates and the changing plan benefits and all of that. I think that is probably something that needs to be siphoned to one person in the district and handled by one person in the district. But it's true, you could split my job into a couple of positions, and then they could provide backup for each other.
Lisa, you've been in this position for what, 5 years, 6 years?
7 or 8.
7 or 8. Who was responsible for the HR and payroll stuff for fire and water before you came on board?
My predecessor, Tony Sheehan.
Okay. So this is something that historically has been handled by the assistant treasurer.
Yes.
and I think we found that some of the record keeping needed to be improved to meet legal standards. So a lot of what Lisa did was to bring up to standard a lot of the record keeping, particularly with respect to taxes and deductions. I don't think we were really compliant with a lot of the regulations. And I think one of the problems when you download administration into water department, fire, the priority of those two departments is their mission. And oftentimes administrative functions take a back seat, which can lead to problems for the district. The auditors come and find that there's a deficiency in our record keeping, it doesn't end up on the water department report. It ends up on, in essence, on my report. So I get concerned when we distribute too many of those duties, because in essence, then what you create is a need for an audit function to make sure that those duties are being done, and that has a lot of time. That requires time as well.
Okay, so you would like to see that portion of the job description remain as is.
Yeah, and in terms of backup, the treasurer has backed up the assistant treasurer on an as-needed basis. Hasn't happened too often, and because one of the times, or one of the things we've done is gone to the every 2-week payroll. Payroll is always the critical thing, and if you have payroll every week, as we do in West Barnstable, if the person wants to get away, there's always a payroll that has to be taken care of, and that's where I would have to be the backup. With payroll every other week, we can usually manage not doing payables for a week and allow the person almost a 2-week break.
Well, Ray, I
So-
would say though, unlike when I am gone and I skip one of those payable weeks or accounts receivable tasks, it's not done by anyone while I'm gone. So when I come back, I have double the workload. I have one sister who is a teacher. When she's absent, there is a substitute teacher. So when she came back to work after a break, she didn't have double the load. She just had the load in that week. My sister, the nurse, when she was out, she had nurse substitutes come in. So she didn't have to do double the work when she came back. I think that's what we're talking about. I think the district, it might behoove the district to, consider figuring out maybe just a little bit different process here so that all of the duties that I have that are more than 32 hours a week are actually covered in a deserved absence. And I don't know what that means.
So Ray, then I guess I'm curious. So how do the duties of the treasurer and the assistant treasurer overlap?
The treasurer is a legal position and
Right.
is responsible. You'll see in Lisa's list of duties that she ensures that the cash is received. That is legally and in the bylaws the responsibility of the treasurer. So I have to carry out certain functions, which I do in the reconciliation process, to meet that obligation. Basically, the assistant treasurer in both places handles the detail, where the treasurer is more involved in the policy. The assistant treasurer doesn't play any role in debt planning and debt execution. Budget is a responsibility of the treasurer. It is basically the assistant to the treasurer.
I understand that. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So I guess another somewhat unrelated but some related thought is that since we're so displeased with our payroll company, which is a generic broad line payroll company, when it comes to onboarding and records maintenance and those things, is there out there a payroll company that specializes in municipal affairs, or at least a payroll? I know that in my business, I have payroll companies that does all the onboarding, does all that, maintains all the documents, all of that jazz,
Yeah.
for a fee, of course.
Yeah.
But then that's a series of tedious and time-consuming tasks that are then eliminated from the potential job description for the assistant treasurer.
Absolutely,
Is
we
that
could
something that
subcontract that out.
is that logical? Is that something that we would maybe think about now since we're preparing to switch?
That very true. We could subcontract that out. I'd have to find out what the costs are, which I could do. Yes, that is a very feasible alternative.
Because at least if we were able to accomplish something like that, then we could have this job description not be so overbearing without also then creating another employee for the district, but still, of course, investing money in that process.
Yep.
So, Seth, you're contemplating that we would have an assistant treasurer, but they would not handle HR and payroll related duties.
Yeah, I think because I think of those things as distinct in my opinion. If you say that on the one hand they're the assistant to the treasurer, which the treasurer does A, B, C, and D, and then the assistant treasurer is also responsible for, certain aspects of those things. I can see how you would say, well, the maintenance of paperwork and the onboarding and whatever, which is very tedious work and time consuming. Those things I see how that could be, but you could easily peel that off if we can find somebody else some other company to take care of that for us and then have the job description. I think that the job description is too large. So you're either going to have two people, because I think also that, though people may disagree with me, that, we need to have an administrative person to handle those things that are associated with Freedom Hall and some other tasks that I think would be reasonable to have be part of that job. That maybe so once you peel off the other bit, then you can have it be part of the assistant treasurer's responsibilities instead of then having two people. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of the easiest way to I don't know. What do you think?
I think Fran's got her hand up.
Along with all of the things you've talked about, you haven't talked about all the responsibilities that Lisa has in terms of the retirement plan, the county retirement plan. Basically, and I don't know if you could sub that out, but it's my understanding that she basically does the inputting of all the information that goes into the county that really should be their job. And that got changed 4 or 5 years ago. And then all of a sudden, she was doing all that, right, Lisa?
No, I've always done that, and as well as uploading deferred savings to, the SMART plan. I think Seth, the water department and the fire department feed me their bi-weekly payroll information. I put it in a form that I upload into our payroll company. So I'm not sure that a payroll company would be able to take that off, those responsibilities away from the assistant treasurer. Maybe onboarding, I don't know. But liaising with the payroll company probably should not be the responsibility of the individual departments.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I don't necessarily agree. I mean, I can see why you say that, and I think that it's reasonable, but at the same time, they're very distinct in their own ways and they go off and do their own things anyway. I understand why it will pass through the assistant treasurer, but they have, if you look at orders of magnitude of how the resources of the district are consumed, we could, I guess part of what I'm thinking is, so we've seen this continuing ascension of, the complexity and the, the funding needs for the water department and the fire department. And we're functioning with essentially the same funding that we've had now for 15 years or however long, where it's like if you take, you're upgrading certain aspects of an organization, but then you're leaving other things as if they don't exist at all and they don't require any update. You can't you don't take a car and or a house and remodel everything except the kitchen. You know what I mean? Things need to occur in tandem and at a scale that's reasonable for the level at which you're trying to operate. So, as that we can go one of two ways, which is we could, if that's going to be our strategy, then we're good. We can just continue. I'm thinking of, well, if we want to, because we tend to be more prudent or spending averse on the Prudential committee than I think that some of the other areas of the the fire district are. And so we've avoided adding a lot of capital to our operations, whereas the fire department and the water department haven't. So in order to keep, if we're going to keep doing that, I think we need to peel off things. And if we can outsource them, or if we can send them to these departments where we're committing all of these resources to begin with, that makes sense, unless our strategy is to try to increase, our capital needs to the same order of magnitude that the other departments are. And then we might as well hire 2 people. And then we can have a part-time treasurer, or 2 full-time people, and we'll have a part-time treasurer, or a full-time assistant treasurer, I should say. And then we'll have what we'll call our administrative assistant, who then does all the things that the assistant treasurer doesn't have time to do, or to make that job description less lengthy and imposing for what it is you're being compensated to do. Do you see what I mean? Like, we could say, well, someone will do the strictly financial aspects and compliance aspects. That'll be the assistant treasurer. And then we're going to have this administrative person who then will administer the Freedom Hall, who will meet with contractors, who will put up signs, who will do whatever the other stuff is that wouldn't be appropriate for that specifically financial or regulatory or compliance aspect of the job.
Yep.
So that's what I'm confused. That's not what I'm confused about, but that's what I think this debate is kind of about for me. Which direction is it that we want to go?
So, Seth, that has some appeal to me. Can you be a little more specific about what the administrative duties would be? I'm not sure that the administrative duties would necessarily be a full-time position, but maybe I'm not understanding the
necessarily have to be.
scope of what you're talking about.
Well, if I'll reference the job description, which looks like it has, the one that Ray sent us today has clearly the older aspect of it. And then it looks like there's a slightly updated 4.325, and then the old one, which, judging by operating the telephone systems, calculators, and the computers and copiers and other typical office machines, must be an old one.
Yep.
We're talking about the ability to operate calculators.
Yep.
But so, I mean, you can see, like I said, I looked at this, but I didn't prepare it ahead of time. But things that are more in the vein of specifically pertaining to Treasury, and then things that I think could fall outside of Treasury, which I think is that payroll thing, or the onboarding aspect of things, maybe not dealing with the contributions to the retirement, but anything that pertains to personnel.
If you make
if
I can, Seth, I think what you're trying to do is make a distinction between payroll and HR administration.
Pretty much payroll and human resources, as opposed to things specifically related to Treasury.
And you certainly could do that. And you might find someone with on a part-time basis might be able to take on those other non-financial functions.
And so I don't think that would necessarily be a bad thing. It just has to do with how much are we willing to invest in it, and do people think that it's a reasonable way for us to spend the money of the district? Part of me, over the last, how long have I been on this committee? 6 years or whatever, and then into the past, the change has used to be extremely concerned about increasing the amount of money we were spending and affecting the tax rate and over borrowing, all that stuff. Seems to be getting less and less so as the years go on. So maybe now's the time that we take it and change our approach and say, we can add, what are we going to add? $50,000, $40,000 to our operating budget on our end, which is a drop in the bucket in comparison to the hundreds of thousands or millions that have been added to the other, specifically fire department, over, a period of how long? I don't know how you guys feel about that. It might be worth a look, because I think that we will have trouble filling that position. I think, being that it's and it may be a 50-hour-a-week job. And then that's why I asked how do the two things overlap so Ray and you know, how the treasurer and the assistant treasurer, and yeah, there's got to be some more room in there for, to, like Lisa says, to allow somebody to not have to be on the hook for it. But two, you know, unfortunately, sometimes that's the way jobs are, you know, they thankless tasks, but we don't want to try to create too many of those.
Well, Seth, I tend to agree with you that the demands of the job appear to have grown over time, and it's not just that the fire and water are spending more money; they are getting kind of more complicated animals.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm inclined to agree with you that this may be either a more full-time position, or the 30-hour position plus an HR payroll outside vendor, although the treasurer, assistant treasurer presumably would be responsible for that relationship. I don't know. I'm kind of inclined, if we can find the right person, to keep all those duties in-house.
You're still going to have some payroll function, because I'm not sure at what point in your organization, Seth, the payroll organization interfaces, but there are time accumulations. The fire department particularly has some strange rules about sickness and how that gets treated. And while we've now got payroll companies that can handle that, the input of that usually stays within the district or within the organization.
I know, I don't know what the municipal strictures are for such a thing, but like for me, like if I hire someone, I give their email address to the payroll company. The payroll company contacts them, and they do the whole onboarding. And then we have digital time clocks that are like geo fenced, so you can only punch in when they're on their phones, and you can only punch in when they're in a certain area, and then they do all the time and everything, and then all you get is an approval notice. You say, okay, this looks, you just hit the button and it goes. I don't know if any of that is applicable to the municipal sphere, but it's very hands off.
Certainly the water department would be a fit. I can't believe that there isn't some payroll department that hasn't dealt with a fire department. It just could be a matter of scale that that system. Well, I don't know. I don't want to say anything because I don't know, but it's usually one of the things that we encounter is there are much better ledgers than we have, but they're designed for larger organizations. They're much more modern. They're much more labor efficient, but we find that they're too expensive because they're designed for larger organizations. But now, obviously, you're not running a large, not an insignificant, but not a large organization. But I'm wondering on the time, particularly when you talk about injured time, the different, I'm sure they could handle the different categories of time with some training of the folks in the fire department. Water department should be very easy.
Right.
But I don't know. It
I
would
mean,
take a lot. It would take something to explore, Seth. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, I mean, we could look into it and see what is available. Maybe nothing. I'm sorry, my computer is about to die, and I'm struggling to find a place to plug it in. All right, but yeah, we could. I mean, it's all just, you know, for the sake of conversation. I mean, we're about to craft the warrant now, so in the next little while. So if we want to add some if we want to add a position and fund it, now's the time. If we want to go a different direction, now's the time.
We could
So,
find a position and then we could develop the implementation. If the implementation doesn't make sense, we don't fill it.
right.
Say that again, Ray.
We could fund a second position and then develop the implementation feasibility. If the feasibility does not pan out, we just wouldn't fill it. You wouldn't spend the money. It would have impact your tax rate this year, but it would come back if we didn't implement it. It would come back as free cash the next year. But I mean, I don't think you could, in the 30 days, less than 30 days that we have before the warrant is finalized, a reliable strategy that says, here are the two positions and here's how we're going to fund, and here's how we're going to implement it. I just don't think we have that kind of time.
I agree. Yeah, Fran.
I just think that we need to bite the bullet and make the assistant treasurer a full-time position.
I agree with that, but I think in addition to being a full-time position, we could still have a second job. Because what's the difference between 32 and 40 hours, which is the difference between what Lisa was working now, right? And then what someone who's working full-time without going into overtime. I don't know what our policy on overtime is. Is it it's hourly at the moment or it's salaried position?
So
It's an
I don't get paid overtime until I work more than 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'm scheduled to work 30 hours, and then when the demands of the job ask me to work more, I do. Last pay period, it was almost 35 hours, but I had other responsibilities that I had planned for that time. But I didn't get paid overtime for working those extra hours because I still hadn't worked 40 hours a week.
Right.
So, Seth, I agree. I think we're all in agreement, actually, on making the assistant treasurer a full-time position. And I agree with you that, and I think this is what Ray was talking about as well, looking at an additional position on top of the full-time assistant treasurer position. Is that what you're contemplating? And Ray, is that what you're contemplating? Fran, I don't think we've heard from you on that topic yet. So go ahead.
Seth, go ahead.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, I don't see any harm in it personally.
Yeah, funding it and then proving to ourselves that it's feasible and productive for the district.
So my question is, what are you going to have this second person do? What is going to be their duties?
It would be primarily in the HR area and in some of the areas that Lisa and you did, which you referred to as obligations of the Prudential Committee.
Ray, can we ask you to divide up the duties that we see here on the two, I'll call them two job descriptions, in a way that you think makes sense for a full-time assistant treasurer position and a part-time, largely HR payroll focused position?
No, I would say largely administrative.
Yeah.
I would
Would
categorize
that,
it that way.
what would administrative, well, you know what? Why don't we ask you to slice that up
Yeah,
in a way that you'll tell us what you think falls under the administrative duties.
right.
And then we're contemplating here, at least Ray has suggested, and it sounds like a good idea to me, to by warrant fund both the full-time assistant treasurer position and a part-time position, specific duties to be determined. And as Ray said, if we can't either find the person or tease out what the duties are, we don't hire. Ray is nodding his head.
Yes, I
Sounds
agree.
great.
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with that. We probably want to pretty quickly, wheel to, how do we go about hiring for this position? First of all, are there duties that we need to follow in
say we-
terms of, I'm sorry?
Excuse me for interrupting.
Are there duties we need to follow in posting for the position, and what's the best way to do it? Do we just go to Indeed and see what we can once we agree on a description, and see what we get in response?
Yes, I think that would be the best way. I mentioned that we're also replacing a similar position at West Barnstable, and we're using Warren Rutherford, a consultant, to manage that process for us. Partially because we have such a short timeline over there. But he's talked about some new ways to communicate want ads that we hadn't used in the past. So I may take a page from what he's doing. Indeed might be part of it, but I might see what other creative places he's going to.
Okay. Well, I feel no need on my part to micromanage that process. Why don't we start with the other than making sure that we follow all our legal duties. Why don't we start with your parsing out the assistant treasurer position, the secondary position, fund both of them by warrant, and we will look for your guidance there, Ray. Why don't we start there? And
Okay.
we'll obviously have to have a few meetings this month, perhaps, but we do have things we need to get on top of here, and this is an important one. Seth, Fran, Ray, Lisa, any other thoughts on the assistant treasurer topic?
I think
Not for me.
when we get to divide, I think that'll be a good point for further discussion.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the school feasibility study, and the primary reason I put this on here is to discuss exactly the issue that Ms. Daly raised at the beginning at the public comment, which is the timing. We were very happy with the Icon proposal. We were very happy with their experience. They have inspected the building. They are working on the project. I had a pretty brief, I had a teleconference with them just to understand where they are. They understand that, and the good news is they're quite far along. They understand that the numbers, that is, what is the cost to demolish the building? What does it cost to turn it into a community center? And how about a recreation center? Those are the three alternatives. They have preliminary drawings, with the understanding, of course, that this is a conceptual exercise and primarily a what does it cost exercise. My view is that this is an issue that needs to be resolved and to be resolved at the annual meeting. and I am conscious that there may be people out there, villagers out there, who want to get something on the warrant. My thought is, it's, you know, I want to make sure that the study is done in such a way that they're comfortable, Icon is comfortable with their numbers and can defend their numbers, because that, after all, is the whole point of this exercise. Having said that, if villagers want to do something about this, you know, whatever the numbers may be, here's my thought on that. The Prudential Committee, we haven't discussed it yet, but I think is likely to put on the warrant or on the annual meeting list a warrant to demolish the building. And, you know, we can draft it right now, subject to Icon's most recent up-to-date number for that. Parties who are interested in doing something different with the building can likewise be drafting their proposals right now, subject only to the numbers that Icon is going to provide. And again, they will be not specific to any exact design, but will give us I think, a very good idea of likely costs. And that data should be enough for the villagers to decide, yeah, we want to go ahead and demolish this building. Yeah, we want to put more money into maintaining the building and possibly renovating the building to the tune of fill in the blank. So having said that, I'd like to aim for a date for a meeting for Icon to present its findings as is required by the special district meeting warrant. Sometime, you know, it will be a relatively short fuse, 7 to 10 days before the end of the month when the warrants are due. I've talked to them in general about that target with lots of you know, lawyerly caveats. They are comfortable that they can do that. So I'm proposing that we pick a date somewhere 7 to 10 days out from the final due date for the warrants. And we will have public comment at the end of the meeting, but Fran, Seth, Lisa, Ray, your thoughts along those lines?
So if they can present it to us prior to the annual meeting, that's fine. The fire department, I know, is going to be presenting the fire station at the annual meeting. So that's going to take a fair amount of time.
Well, Fran, just to be clear, what I'm talking about is having a meeting where a separate meeting where Icon presents, because it will be a lengthy meeting, and timing that, you know, for relatively late April.
I understand that, but I think I want to be sure that when we discuss this at any meeting, that, as we were led to believe for several years, the group that, if they want a community center, they will be funding completely the rehab and the maintenance of a community center, and it would not fall on the taxpayers of the district, because the taxpayers of the district are already paying town taxes, which are restoring a playground, $1 million playground in Centerville, building $1 million playground in Osterville. And also, you know, our taxes pay for the rest of the community buildings, village buildings in the town. So I don't think Katuitt should be, you know, need to put that on the backs of our residents. Thank you.
I do agree with that, but importantly, from the people who might be interested in the in turning it into a community center, setting aside, of course, the point that our enabling legislation does not currently allow for that. That's kind of why I was making the point. Let's determine if there is a desire to do something with this building other than demolish it and return the site to nature. And that, I think, we will have all the information we need in hand in advance of the annual meeting. And by we, I mean both the proponents of demolition and proponents of rehabilitation. Seth, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, that sounds fine. Do we have a date? I mean, there's no date certain, obviously, for when they're gonna come back to us.
No,
Within
that's the
10
purpose
days
of
of the,
this discussion right now. I'm thinking, as I say, like a week to 10 days out, subject to people's schedule, a week to 10 days out from the warrant deadline, subject to people's schedule.
how long does it take to get a ballot or initiative or a community-based warrant on?
It has to have 10 signatures and it has to meet the deadline of
So
prior to
just on the
30
day,
days prior to the annual meeting.
right? Yes, that leaves time. That leaves plenty of time. I think that'd be fine.
All right.
As long as they come in with that, as long as they do in fact give a week. If we can do it a week before the 28th.
Well, we will we will make that
We have to-
happen.
We have to do it a week before the closing of the warrant.
Right, which should be
Yes.
the 28th of April.
Yeah.
Or 21st of April would be the day that we want to have it come in at the latest. And then we'd have 2 days, we'd have 48 hours to schedule a meeting for the presentation of it. If they, do you know what I mean? Depending on,
Seth, my thought is, if assume that April 21st is the day. I call them, I say April 21st is the day. And they'll say, based on prior conversation, okay, we can get that done. And then, I notice a meeting, whatever, 3 days from now.
Yeah.
I notice it for April 21st. And we have the Civic Association give as much notice as they can, and of course we put it on our website so everyone is aware this is happening.
The 21st is
Sounds
Easter
fine.
Monday.
Okay, so let's cross that Easter Monday out then. Yeah, we're
So
just,
The
yeah,
22nd would still meet that, give you a couple of days. It has to be finalized. The annual district meeting is I believe is the 28th of May.
Yes, it is.
So if you did it the 22nd, you would still be able to take that week before you had to finalize it the following Monday, the 28th.
all right. And if I can, I could try to push it earlier than the 21st or 22nd.
Go for the 17th.
Yeah, again, subject to, and I have every confidence that they will say, yes, we can do it by then. Okay, that is the topic of feasibility study. I just wanted to mention the policy advisory committees and the bylaws committees. Where do we stand on those?
Bylaws haven't met yet. I'm working on it, or I'm gonna start working on it.
Okay, and Seth?
Same.
Okay. So it's out there. Keep us posted. the next item was annual meeting. Jack Gardner sent me an email today, which I forwarded to you guys. He said he was going to try to join this meeting, but the upshot was that it appears that he's planning on. I thought he had resigned effective immediately, but it
No.
sounds like he is just not going to run for moderator, but will moderate the upcoming annual meeting, which I think is good news. I will reach out to Jack and confirm that that's the case. So our timing is April 28th for the finalization of these. Ray, do we put it on you to draft the initial draft? Just remind me of what our kind of what our cadence is for that.
Usually Charlie and I draft it,
Okay.
send it to Charlie and he cleans it up and then shares it.
Okay. And like, what's the timing on that?
I think you can start drafting it with blanks, like right now, and then finalize it as you move closer to the 28th.
Okay. That would be great if we can start drafting it. The sooner the better. Question for Charlie. Charlie, I'm responsible for doing the Prudential Committee section of the annual report. And I asked you for the last annual report, which you sent me. Thank you very much. It was the 2023 annual report. Is the annual report last year that didn't get approved because of some typos that we addressed, but it didn't get approved at the annual meeting? Was that the 2024 annual report?
No,
No,
23.
23.
23.
23.
So 2023 was the one that was discussed last year,
Yes.
because the Prudential Committee annual report talks about we're still looking to get to acquire the property from Barnstable, which I thought occurred like before then. No, if you tell me that 2023 is last year's. Okay.
Yes, the
So-
report for the previous year.
Okay. So this upcoming annual report will run from July 1, 2023 to June 30, 2024.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the annual report for fiscal year 24.
Got it. All
Do
right.
we also have to have the revised fiscal year 23 report approved?
Yes.
Needs to be voted on, yeah.
Okay.
But
Um,
everyone is content now with it having been reviewed by everybody up and down. When is the annual report due? Because I would like to have plenty of time to, again, ask all the departments to proof their own submission.
Well,
It's usually
Mark.
due in November.
No.
No.
No,
Charlie, when would you like all reports into you by?
Usually wants them by February, don't you?
yes,
Yeah.
but it never comes in that,
have you received any yet?
yes.
Okay,
I have water, I have fire. The treasurer,
We've
okay,
done all
I guess
that.
it's just me then. I've outed myself.
So Mark, you should know I have vacation all next week and I have jury duty the next week. So
What's your role in this?
I'm the one who copy edited the entire revision of fiscal year 23, and Ray and I have worked together to, fix this year's and make sure that we don't have copy editing mistakes. So if you have a report you want to get to me by tomorrow, which is my last day of work for a while.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I will proofread it myself.
Great.
But thank you. Okay. The last item, by the way, am I correct in hearing that, and this is a complete aside, that the water department was successful in getting their change in the enabling legislation?
Yes. But it has to be voted on at the annual
No, it
meeting.
has not been approved yet. It had to go back because Kip Diggs filed the article too late last year. So it's been refiled, and we're waiting for the House and Means Committee and the House of Representatives to establish their first committee date. So it's going through the process again.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, what's the timeline on that then, assuming?
I'm
same
waiting
thing.
for a call from Representative Diggs' assistant. Her name is Colleen. They were going to be talking to the chair of that committee today, but I haven't heard from her. So as soon as I hear from her, would you like me to let you know?
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay, sure.
And then the last item on our agenda is public comment again.
I see one chat from Patty Daly that came in at 8:17, so 10 minutes ago, and her comment was 30 days prior to ADM. I'm not sure what that insert was.
That was
I think
regarding the warrant.
It was regarding the warrant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was regarding the warrant.
Okay. All right.
Having been on, sorry, I got to get back to the Zoom. Where are you guys?
We see you.
In regards to the annual report, we talked about that a lot when we were on bylaws together, Mark. And at one point, I thought we had changed it that the clerk shall cause to be published all annual reports of all officers and committees of the district by the end of the calendar year. So it is the end of the calendar year.
Yeah.
We were talking about changing it at one point in our committee meeting to like November, but we said we would just leave it to the end of the calendar year, and then nobody really enforces it. So maybe everybody turns them in by February, but that's what our bylaws say. So by the end of the calendar year. And do you remember those discussions?
I do remember those discussions, and primarily that no one really complied with the rules as they were,
Right.
which is not good.
We were trying
I'm
to
an
get
offender.
everybody. Yeah, we were trying to get everybody to comply so that they wouldn't have to write their annual reports while they were doing the next year's budget. Like we were saying, why don't
Well,
you get that
Carol-
out of the way? And so that's what's in the bylaws. So
The problem is that all the information isn't available for the annual
The
report.
audit
Yeah.
isn't even finished until February.
we understand that, but that's what our bylaws read. And it was always, that's for the finances, but all the other stuff of the annual reports can be written.
Yeah.
And I do want to say that the annual report that was not accepted at last year's ADM was more than just typos. There were significant issues. So you said just typos, and I just want to clarify, it was way more than that.
Well, I don't think that I agree with you on that, but I'm not going to rehash that at 8:30 in the evening. Okay, anything other public comments?
I don't see anything.
I'll
Motion
take a
to
motion to
adjourn.
adjourn then.
Second.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
We are in adjournment.
Good night, everybody.
Good
See
night.
y'all later.